All right, good evening. Thank you guys for coming tonight. I know a lot of you are either students and alumni, so it's great to see you. And if you're new to West, a prospective student, or even just coming to see what Clare Levison has to say, we're excited to have you here too. I did want to start the night by introducing Roger Rouse, who is our chair of our accounting programs. As you know, Clare Levison is a CPA, and so is Roger, so we thought it was only fitting to have Roger kick off tonight. Roger's also VP and CFO of Microwage here in the Valley. He is a passionate CPA and a passion for accounting, but as he says, it can be fun. And he also teaches here and really enjoys it. So I'd like to introduce Roger Rouse.
Welcome. Thanks for coming. Just to start, Microwage, where I work now, this used to be the corporate headquarters. I don't know if you knew that or not, Tracy, but our building was right here.
Oh, wow.
And my office is right over there. A long time ago. I'm happy to be here and introduce Claire. Claire and I actually have some things in common. A couple of them is that we're both from the South. I was originally, and we're both CPAs. So I got a question for Claire about the South. What is the plural of y'all?
Use.
All y'all.
Oh.
And then regarding the CPA thing, how do you, this is for the audience, how do you know if you have a good CPA that you're working with? You ask them what 2 plus 2 is, and they say, what do you want it to be? But that's a joke. I've been here since 1998, and for many of those years I have been the program chair. And I've seen our accounting department evolve quite a bit over the years. We used to just have undergraduate classes on the ground, then we went to online, and then recently we've offered graduate programs. So in our undergraduate program we have 13 classes that allow you to get your degree in accounting. We have introductory, intermediate, tax, audit, forensic, advanced accounting obviously. And then many of you may know that to be a CPA, you need 150 hours of college education, college credits. So most undergraduate degrees are about 120. So a couple of years ago, we introduced a master's program in accounting so that you could do a couple things. You could get your master's, and you could also get enough hours to sit for the CPA exam and become a certified public accountant. So we've got 2 programs. We've got the MBA in accounting, which is for the accounting student, someone who's got a degree in accounting and they've got already several units in accounting. And so they have the opportunity to take 5 higher level accounting courses plus a lot of other business related courses. So then you've got your MBA in accounting. And then you've got our MS in accounting. In the MS, we have enough accounting classes. We have 10 accounting classes at the graduate level that you can get enough accounting classes. You have to have a certain number of accounting classes and a certain number of college courses. So if you have a degree in engineering or nursing or teaching or something else and you want to go into the field of accounting, then you can do that by taking the MS. Then you'll have the hours and the accounting experience as well. So a little confused about the difference between those two, but that's what it's all about. Also know that our accounting program is current. I don't, some of you have heard me say this before, but accounting and exciting aren't often in the same sentence. But accounting is a kind of an exciting time. What's happening is there are 2 sets of standards. There's international accounting and there's US GAAP. And because of the confusion of that, they're converging them. So we're converging the standards to try and come up with one international standard. It's supposed to be done by 2012. It's not done yet, but they're actually getting very close. And what we've done is we've integrated international accounting standards into our entire program, both the undergraduate and the graduate. So as an accounting student at West, you get both the GAAP and the international, and we always are up to date about what's going on as far as the changes in that. So, and then finally the faculty. As mentioned, I'm the CFO at a national technology company, and most of my fellow faculty are. What I'm teaching the students at night is the very thing I did during that day. So the faculty's experienced and knows exactly what's going on out there in the world of accounting. So. Well, for that, that's enough about me and kind of the accounting program. What we're here tonight is listen to Claire. And I just took a couple things off her bio. She's a certified public accountant, CPA, a national financial literacy spokesperson for the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. That's our national organization. She's appeared on major radio and television networks across the country and is a member of the Virginia Society of Certified Public Accountants Board. She was named the 2010 Top 5 CPAs Under 35, so we know that now. She has more than a decade of corporate accounting experience and is also an active volunteer. She serves as a PTA president, a Girl Scout leader, and Sunday school teacher. And she lives in Blacksburg, Virginia, with her husband and 2 daughters. She's here tonight to speak about her book, Frugal Isn't Cheap. Okay? Spend less, save more, and live better. I wanted to read a review that I got off of the book. Claire provides a fresh perspective on financial literacy issues. Her ability to synthesize complex financial solutions into a clear and understandable story sets her apart from others. And that's written by Ernie Almonte, who was former chairman of the American Institute of CPAs. Well, I went on Amazon and bought an advanced copy, and I cannot agree more with Mr. Almonte about her book. I'm a firm believer in the concepts that Claire espouses, but it's not just about money. Okay? What you'll see in the book is about improving your life and making money part of it. She mentions in her book a societal change in our view of money and living above one's means. It kind of came out of the Great Recession we just went through. I think she's right. I hope she's right. And I can assure you that my wife and my college freshman daughter will be getting copies. But I want to thank you about your passion for this subject. It's an important concept, make a real difference in people's lives and in our country as a whole. So with that, thank you for being here, and I'd like to introduce Clare Levison.
For coming out tonight. I am from Blacksburg, and I live there with my husband and 2 daughters, as he said. Interesting fact, I was actually born in Arizona. I was born in Flagstaff. My parents were both teachers on the Navajo reservation there, but I was an infant when we left, and I grew up in rural Southwest Virginia. Blacksburg, if you follow college football, is known for Virginia Tech and the Hokies, although after their showing at the bowl game, I don't know how much we want to mention that, but so that's where I'm from, and I want to thank you for coming tonight to listen to this presentation on being frugal, not cheap in the new year. So I believe there are 2 things that you need to make a change in your life, and one of them is education, and the other one is motivation. So I want to try and give you both of those things tonight. First, some motivation to make a change, to make an improvement that you want to make. And then second, some education about what you can do to actually make that happen. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's in the introduction to my book, and it's a Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So if you haven't been doing financially the things you feel like you should, it's never too late to start. Yes, maybe you should have started a long time ago, but that's in the past. Today is a new day, it's a new year, it's 2014, and so you can always start making those improvements right now. So, personal finance is complicated. How many of you think that that's true? Some people. I think that's actually a myth. You don't need to know everything there is to know about accounting or the stock market or mutual funds or any of those kinds of things. You just need to learn what you need to know to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. I recently got a new computer. My old computer crashed. I was trying to be frugal, so I put a new hard drive in it. And then the screen went out. So I decided the computer had become a money pit, and I was going to be cheap, not frugal, if I kept repairing it instead of just biting the bullet and buying a new one. But the new computer came with Windows 8. And so I was very leery about using that. In fact, I had gotten my daughter, I have 2 daughters, they're 14 and 9. So I had gotten my 14-year-old a laptop the prior year for Christmas, and I stayed away from it because it had Windows 8, and it was always flipping to something when you didn't want it to, and I just did not like the idea. I'd become very accustomed to 7. But the guy at the computer store taught me a few tips and tricks. You know, how to push that little window button in the bottom, and it makes it go to the desktop, and you hover over here instead of having the bar at the bottom, You hover over here if you want to see your windows. And pretty soon I knew enough to accomplish what I wanted to with Windows 8. And that's how I feel about personal finance. You're never going to know every single thing there is to know. I'm never going to know every single thing there is to know. And I'm certainly no computer expert, but I could learn enough to accomplish what I wanted to with the computer. And that's how I feel like you can think about personal finance the same way. This is a great time of year to start simplifying your life. KISS. How many of you have heard of KISS? So that's keep it simple, stupid. But I'm from the South, so I would never call someone stupid. So KISS is keep it simple, honey. So we're going to make this simple. And I think one of the ways you can do that is to get rid of or stop buying things that are cluttering up your life. Whether they're on sale, whether they're a bargain, it doesn't matter. If you don't need them, you don't need to spend any amount of money on them, and they're just going to clutter up your life. So this is a great time to simplify. Sell some of those things you don't need anymore, and make a pact with yourself that you're not going to keep buying more stuff that's just going to clutter things up. So that's the myth. Personal finance is complicated. Here's the truth. Life is plan B. How many of you know that to be true? So this is the motivational part of my talk. I'm going to tell you how it is, because I know this was mentioned in the flyer for tonight's event, how it is that I came to be here today. I was a bit of an underachiever in high school. I'm not going to admit that to my 14-year-old, but I was. I ended up with a decent GPA and a decent SAT score, and I went to another local university in Southwest Virginia, which is Radford University. And that's when I decided that I needed to be a more serious student. I decided I wanted a professional job, and so I did really well. In college, I went to get a degree in business management. Now, I never wanted to actually manage a business necessarily. What I really wanted to do was be a lawyer. But the business degree appealed to, I guess, the practical side of me, and I found that easier to think of having a degree in then, say, political science. That was too abstract. And so I thought, well, business and law, those could go hand in hand well. And so I applied and was accepted at the University of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Chapel Hill Law School. And that's what I was going to do when I graduated. And I graduated in 3 years because I went to summer school every summer. And so I was all set to go to Chapel Hill. And I was 20 at the time, and I found out I was pregnant with my older daughter. I'm 35 now. She's 14, so you can do the math on that. So I said, well, okay, that's okay. I'm going to defer my admission for a year. You can do that. And I took a job at a local bank as a teller. It wasn't a high-paying job. A bank teller is not a high-paying job. But it was fine. And so I had my daughter in May, and in July I went to visit Chapel Hill to find housing and find a daycare, and I decided that law school was going to be extremely rigorous and that she was probably going to be in daycare every waking moment that the business was open and that's not what I wanted. And so I called my college professor, who was an accounting professor, who I had gotten to be pretty close with. And I said, so here's the deal. I've decided I'm not going to law school, and I need to get a good paying job. So I'm thinking about coming back to get my MBA. He was the director of the MBA program. And he said, well, you can do that if you want, but I really think what you should do is come back and get your accounting degree. You only have 5 more classes to take until you can sit for the CPA exam, and I think you should do it. And so that's what I did. I took the 5 more accounting classes, and at the end of that year, I got a great job with a local company, and that decision really changed my life forever. I went to, it was a good paying job, and I was able to send my daughter to the best daycare in the area while I went to work. I was able to buy my own townhouse. But I went to work and I met my husband. So I started there in June. And my husband asked me to marry him in October. And in February, we got married. And next month, we'll be married for 13 years. So that worked out fine. But time went on. I kept working the job. About 4 years later, I had my second daughter. And about 3 years after that, the boards of accountancy decided that they were going to change the requirements to sit for the CPA exam. So you heard Roger say 150 hours. Well, it used to be 120 hours, and that's what I had. I had a little more than that because I had the business degree plus the 5 accounting classes. But I didn't have enough, of those accounting requirement configurations. And I didn't have enough to sit once that went into effect. So I said, this is it. This is now or never. They had a grandfather period for 18 months where you could still get your license with the 120 hours. And I said, well, I have to do it. The company that I worked for, it was neither here nor there to them. If I had the license, I was doing a good job in the job that they wanted me to do. But it was my personal goal. I had always wanted to say, I am a professional. I have this professional licensure. I had come that far. I wasn't going to, go and let the time lapse and not have that license. So I did what some of you may have done if you attended this university or are thinking about doing if you attend this university. I bought a program, and I took vacation time from work, and I studied at night after my girls had gone to bed, and I had CDs, so when I would drop them off, I'd put the CD in on my way to work, and I would hear the woman say, now, to do a statement of cash flows first, so it's really exciting entertainment, but during the 18-month period, I did, in fact, pass the exam and got the license. So I had always wanted to, when I got the license, I decided to get involved with a state society of CPAs, which was a great decision. I think volunteering and getting involved in those networking opportunities is great, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But so I got involved with the state society. And I had always wanted to be a writer. And one night I was at a party, and a fellow husband of a friend of mine said, well, what do you do? And I said, I'm a CPA. But, I've really always wanted to be a writer because I knew he was a writer. And he said, well, the local paper is looking for a finance columnist. So I took the job, I guess if you'd call it that. I mean, they didn't pay me hardly anything to do it. But I took the job. And I started writing about personal finance, and I got a lot of positive feedback. And about the same time, I started volunteering with the American Institute of CPAs. And I decided that I was going to put together a book proposal. And I shopped it around to agents, and they all said the same thing. We really like your writing, but you're not famous enough. And I thought, well, if I was already famous, I won't be writing this book. No. I said, okay, fine. Well, through the AICPA, I had the opportunity to do lots of media, beyond TV, beyond radio, go to New York City, small town girl in the big city. And I met Sharon Lecter, who lives here in Phoenix. I don't know how many of you know her. But she agreed to write the foreword for the book. She worked on the same financial literacy commission that I did. So once I had more media exposure, and once Sharon graciously agreed to write the foreword to my book, I went back and said to those agents, so now do you think I'm like a little itty-bitty famous enough that you might be able to sell this book? And she said, yes, I do. And she did. And so here I stand before you today. And why am I telling you all this? Not just because I like to talk about myself, but because I really think you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. You can accomplish your goals. You really can. I know it sounds cliche, and you can do anything. But I really think that if you set goals for yourself, career-wise, financially, I really believe you can accomplish them. And you can accomplish them while balancing other responsibilities. So it's never too late. We have all kinds of commitments in our lives, But it's never too late, and there's never too much going on to really set your priorities and set your goals. And of course, again, this is 2014, start of a new year. This is a great time to do that. But when you do that, create goals you can get excited about, so you'll continue to be motivated. Lots of people say, you should save for retirement. Well, you should save for retirement. But make that more exciting, more tangible. So instead of just saying, I'm going to save for retirement, what do you want retirement to look like? Do you want to live in a condo on the golf course? Go drive by the condo you'd like to own someday. That makes it a lot more exciting. It makes it a lot more appealing to forego something else, because you're going to have to do without some things in order to achieve that goal. But it makes it a lot more motivating, a lot more exciting, the more specific and the more tangible you can actually make your goal. So I believe that there are really only two paths to a brighter financial future. You can increase your income, or you can decrease your spending. Us accountants love, everything to balance out, and there's two sides, and those are the two sides, basically. Increase your income, decrease your spending. I know that if you want to have a bright financial future, you can have one, because I'm doing all the things that I'm talking about. I am not a financial advisor to the stars. I've never amassed a fortune and lost it and amassed it again. I am a regular person. I'm still working that day job that I got when I graduated from college all those years ago. But what I'm doing is working hard and spending smart. And anyone can do that. Anyone. And it absolutely will get you where you want to go financially. This is not an infomercial or a get-rich-quick scheme or anything like that. The reality is, I really think that if you do those two things, hard work, responsible, smart spending, you can accomplish what you want to financially. So the first piece of that, increase your income. So be a go-getter. I'm assuming everyone in this room is a go-getter because you're here tonight, right? I mean, there's lots of other things you could be doing on a Thursday night at whatever time it is, 7:02. But you're here in this room listening to this talk about improving your finances. So that right there says to me that all of you are go-getters and all of you can accomplish your financial goals. So take that same momentum into your workplace. People notice go-getters at work. Be one of those people. It's hard sometimes. We get bogged down. We don't, we have other commitments. We might not be super happy in our job at this moment in time for whatever reason. But go there every day and make yourself stand out so that you can get that next promotion, so you can get that next raise, so that if you want to go in and ask for that next promotion, next raise, that you really feel justified in doing so. Go-getters stand out in a crowd, and they are very hard to overlook. Now, maybe you've had a boss at some point down the road that you feel like was a bad boss, and they didn't recognize your value, and they overlooked you, and that can happen. But in the long run, if you can be a go-getter, you will get noticed. It will be appreciated. You will be the one that stands out in the crowd. And then look for education and certification opportunities. So if you want to further your education, get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, get a CPA license or some other certification. Look for those kinds of opportunities because those can also help you further your career, get those raises, get those promotions. And then I really believe strongly in affiliations with organizations. They look great on your resume and they offer great networking opportunities. So two I have up here are the AICPA, which obviously I'm a member and huge fan of. That's for accountants. And then SHRM is another one, the Society for Human Resource Management, that's widely known and recognized. And I'm sure there are others in IT and management and all those other fields. So seek out organizations to get involved with. I think that really goes a long way. Then you need to find your frugal side. So I believe that frugal isn't cheap, it's smart. In fact, that was the title of the book until the publisher decided that it was too long. So then it just became Frugal Isn't Cheap. But Frugal Isn't Cheap, it's smart. How many of you watch those shows, Extreme Cheapskates? Has anyone watched that? See, that is not what we're talking about here. In fact, I hate those shows because they give frugality a bad name. And they give people the idea that you're talking about something miserable and wacky. And that's not what I'm talking about. So I don't want you to be an extreme cheapskate. I just want you to be smart about your spending. How many of you watch the extreme couponing? I'm not a fan of that either. I generally don't do a lot of coupons. I like to sign up for emails from stores that I frequent. Because again, I don't believe in cluttering up your life. So I don't want a bunch of 20 cents off coupons for stuff that I don't even really buy. But it is worth it to me to sign up for the email list of stores that I frequent. Because then I am likely to use that coupon, and it's right on my phone. I can just take it in. You know, it's really easy. So I'm not into the extreme couponing because I don't think you should really stockpile, you know, a bunch of stuff. You know, I say like 30 days worth of stuff to consume because again, you're just cluttering up your life. It sort of becomes bordering on hoarding. So that's not what I'm talking about. We're not talking about extreme couponing or being a cheapskate. What I really want people to do is take the emphasis off of material things. And I think that was talked about a little bit in the beginning too, but if you think about it, it's really true that the best things in life are free. So I say spend less, save more, live better, and sometimes people say, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to spend less and live better? Because then I won't be able to buy all that stuff I want. But so what I want people to do is take the emphasis off the stuff. Put it back onto things that are free that actually enhance your lives in ways that the stuff never could. So friendships, family, those kinds of relationships, quality time, quality conversations. When I started doing a radio tour for the book, I had a guy on the radio, and it was a morning show. It was like a morning pop, which are fun to do because they're not, you know, sometimes you do the shows and they've got this set list of, but the morning pop radio guys are all about joking around and everything. So the radio guy said to me, but I said, you know, the thing about friendships and whatever. And he said, yeah, I spend quality time, but I go out on my boat and I have fun with my friends. Now I couldn't, you know, what do you say about I shouldn't buy the boat? Then I couldn't go out on. And I said, yeah, but here's the thing. Is it a new boat? Is it a used boat? How much did you spend on the boat? Because the reality is what you enjoy about your fishing trip is spending the time with your friends and doing whatever you do on a fishing trip. I don't know. Fishing, I guess. Maybe drinking a beer. Whatever people do on a fishing trip. I don't go on fishing trips. I get seasick. But I'm certain that it's not about the boat. And that it wouldn't really matter if it was a used boat or an old boat or a smaller boat. I know for certain, you know, I've been on nice vacations and I've had great time. I've also been to our good friend's cabin in West Virginia, small town West Virginia. And there is nothing, I mean, you don't have a choice but to do nothing there because there's nothing to do there. You know, go to the cabin, pitch a tent, because it's just a 2-bedroom cabin, so we can't all fit in the cabin. Pitch a tent, you know, sit by the river, talk. It costs us next to nothing. There's no restaurants to go. You don't even spend money going out to eat because there's nowhere to go out to eat. So had just as good a time doing that as I did on the vacations that cost quite a bit of money. So I really want you to think about taking the emphasis off the spending, off the material things, and think about what you're really trying to achieve. And most of the time, that's some kind of connection, some kind of relationship, some kind of memory, and that doesn't have to cost a lot. And then the third thing is, I had a colleague read the book, and this is what captured her attention. You aren't what you own. So in the book, I say, think of the things that you like about yourself. I'm smart, I'm funny, those things don't change based on what material possessions you have. Those things stay the same. So no matter what kind of car you drive, you're still funny. No matter what kind of car you drive, you're still smart. Okay? So focus on who you are and what you have to offer, and that is separate and apart from the things that you own and the material possessions that you have. All right, so then, you are going to probably have to decrease your spending. And a lot of times that involves reestablishing your priorities. So spending is about making choices. What do I want to spend my money on? What's most important to me? Honestly, I probably spend more than I should on going out to eat. But I am a person who likes to do things rather than have things. So I don't have, a lot of, purses, let's say. Or, shoes. You must have lots of purses and shoes. That's okay. That's fine. But that's your priority. Do you know what I mean? But you can't go out to eat all the time and buy purses and shoes. Decide which one is more important to you and pick that. Okay? So, along with that, make frequent use of the words, I'd rather. So sometimes you're going to say, I'd rather go out to eat than buy that pair of shoes. Sometimes you're going to say, I'd rather save than do either one of those things. Now, if I say, would you rather buy this pair of shoes or save that money for your emergency fund? You might say, actually, I'd rather have that pair of shoes than save for my emergency fund. So what you need to tell yourself, and it's really true when that moment comes, is being debt-free and having solid savings brings a feeling of freedom, security, and peace of mind. So you might think in that moment that you'd rather have the shoes. The reality is you'd actually probably rather be debt-free with a solid savings if you really thought about it. Because it truly does bring freedom. It does bring security. It lowers stress, peace of mind, all those things. So in the moment, you may be tempted. But in the long run, you'll never feel bad about having saved that money. You might feel bad about buying the shoes. You might say, I shouldn't have done that. You'll never say, I shouldn't have saved for a rainy day. And I want you to look for less expensive options. So find more affordable ways to do the things you want to do. Again, we're not talking about being cheapskates. We're talking about spending smarter. So I have a few items here. I was on Good Morning Arizona this morning and I used these items. So I'm going to use them again. The first one is a pack of note cards. So this represents what I was talking about, being thoughtful, fostering relationships, and taking emphasis off of material possessions. Instead of buying a gift for someone, write them a thoughtful note. It is not cheap to send someone a thoughtful note instead of a gift. A lot of times, people appreciate that more than you just grabbing something off the shelf. I've done this lots of times with my children's teachers. Teachers get lots of stuff. They get lots of trinkets and doodads and all those things. But when I wrote thoughtful notes to my children's teacher, I always got an immediate response. Oh my gosh, you just made my day. I had no idea, that's what you were thinking of. So a thoughtful note can beat a gift any day of the week and costs next to nothing. Next we have these almonds, which it appears someone has eaten since Good Morning Arizona. And we have this box of cereal. Now, together these two items are going to save you probably total $3. Okay? Now, I am not here to tell you that $3 is going to make you rich. What I will tell you is two things. One, I hear people say a lot, there's just not anywhere else I can cut back. I am just bare bones. I can't do it. There's nowhere else to cut. I'm as low as it gets. There's always more room. Think about buying generics, okay? $3 isn't going to make you rich, but it adds up over time. It really does. If you think, you know, a lot of people tell me, I just can't save anything. I just can't do it. If you save this $3, you know, every week of the year, you have a decent amount of money saved up. You'd at least have a start. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I really believe that if you're frugal with small purchases, that mentality will flow through to larger purchases. And that will make a bigger difference in your budget, in your savings, in achieving your financial goals. So hopefully, you know, I always go into the store and I always go for the generic first. Hopefully, if you can kind of train your mind, because that's what it really is, you know, like we're running a financial marathon, and this is sort of a frugal training for it. Hopefully, if you can train your mind to seek out less expensive options. So if you decide you want to watch a movie, rent a DVD instead of going to the theater. You know, buy generic. Start training your mind to seek out the clearance rack instead of the brand new merchandise. This is going to make a change in your finances, small and big. So that's what I think about that. I also think that my kids have told me, don't ever bring home the generic Pop-Tarts again. Okay, so some of it is not good. They would not eat them. So I'm not suggesting, you know, it's not a good deal if no one in the house is going to eat it. There are certain things that you're willing to pay more for. That's fine. But you're not going to know unless you try it. So I encourage everyone to try the less expensive options. And if you decide they're really not worth saving the dollar on, don't do it. This is our generic painkiller. So this goes for about $6 and change, and the name brand went from $14 and something. That's actually a big difference. That's like 50–60% off. So start seeking out less expensive options in all of the spending and purchasing that you do. So here's that infographic that you probably can't read, but I'll read it to you. It's called Money Secrets, and this was put out by the AICPA after they did a survey on the topic of money being a taboo thing to talk about. So it says, Americans continue to struggle with their finances, but talking about it remains taboo. So I'm always amazed about all the things people are willing to say and talk about. And when you want to talk about someone's money, they're like, that's none of your business. What I have in my bank account, or, you know, what my income is, and all this stuff. You know, they'll talk about religion, they'll talk about politics, they'll talk about sex. Money is like, I'm not talking about that. So they did a survey on this, and it says, which personal problem would you be most comfortable discussing? Workplace was 23%, health 21%, relationships 20%, financial was the second least thing people wanted to talk about, next only to legal problems. People want to talk about their legal problems. Who do you most often consult for financial advice? 44% said a family member, but 28% said, I have no one to ask. 65% of Americans said keeping financially fit was as tough or tougher than keeping physically fit. How many of you agree with that? Yeah. So those are two things people are trying to improve at this time of year. They're trying to improve their physical fitness and their financial fitness. They're both hard to do, right? They both take effort, time, they take thought, but they can both be done. And then there are some other things on here. But the point of this is that I think people should talk more about their money. You can't fix something if you never talk about it, if you never acknowledge it, if you're not open. You know, we all know that you're more likely to succeed at something when you have a support group around you that has similar goals, that is encouraging you, you know, that says, don't buy those shoes, save that money instead, you know? You don't want that friend that says, yeah, go ahead and buy them, it's fine. You want to surround yourself with people who have similar goals and who want to see you be successful in the goals that you have. So this is my final slide. It says create a financial support group. That might sound kind of wacky. All these people are holding hands. But what I really mean is talk with people about money. Talk with your spouse about it. People don't like to do that. Why? because it causes arguments, right? They did another survey. AICPA loves to do surveys. They found that among the people they surveyed, money was the number one thing that people said they argued about. But I really believe that that means you shouldn't talk less about it, you should talk more about it, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but you can't ever work through that and find common ground and find solutions if you never talk about it. So you don't talk about it, and then one time you do, it turns into a big argument. So you might have to work through that argument stage so that you can move on to the we're on the same page, we're finding compromises stage. So talk to your kids about money. How are your kids ever going to learn how to manage money if you never talk to them about it? Parents don't like to talk about money. They don't want their kids to know how much they make. They don't want their kids to know how much they spend, how much the mortgage is or the car was. I took my girls with me when I bought my car. Because how are they ever going to learn how you negotiate to buy a car if they never watch anyone do it? So I said, come on, we're going to buy a car. This is how it goes. And they watched me say, oh, no, I couldn't pay that, the man going back and forth and everything. But you have to talk to your kids about money, and you have to expose them to it. Talk to people about money. So I encourage, a lot of people have book clubs nowadays. That seems to be a hot thing. If you want to read this book with the book club and discuss it, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, what's helpful to you, ask other people what's working for them, talk about money. You can interact with me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and I always respond to any questions, and I also post lots of articles that I'm interviewed for, so they're usually things like how to save $500 in 9 months, or, they're usually very practical. And then the AICPA has a website called Feed the Pig, and it's feedthepig.org. And they have a lot of information on their website about setting goals and accomplishing your financial goals, and it's all free. They're a nonprofit organization. And frequently, probably once a month or once every other month, I'll do a live Facebook chat for them where people can write in their questions, and then we answer them live. Another gal and myself do it. So those are really fun. So there's lots of conversations going on about money. Get yourself involved in one of them. So I really believe that will help you stay motivated. That'll give you tips and ideas. Think about things you hadn't thought about before. So get involved in an ongoing financial discussion. Let's see how we're doing time-wise here. Oh, perfect. So stay in touch with me. You can visit my website. It's ClareLevison.com. There's no I in Claire, and there's no second N in Levison. It's just like the word. Everyone misspells my name. So I made it my website address because... so Claire, no I, Levison. Not Levinson, Levison. And then my Facebook is facebook.com/author Clare Levison. Twitter @Clare Levison, LinkedIn Clare Levison. By the time you see it that many times, maybe you'll remember. No I, no second N. Does anyone have any questions for me? How many of you have a financial goal for 2014? Yes. Who might like to share what their financial goal is? Yes.
I'm going to save money on rent.
Okay.
I'm going to find a less expensive place to live so that I can save more for retirement.
So you're using I'd rather and seeking out less expensive options.
Yeah.
Yes.
To start a workshop for college students that are athletes who are out of town that live in Arizona. Because once they sign their year lease in an apartment when they go to community college, they're stuck for a year. So let's get your finances right in order so you don't go back home with debt.
Perfect. That's a great one because we all know what a problem student debt is these days. So you are creating a financial support group. I love it. Who else has one? Anyone else that they want to share? All right, well, thank you so much for coming.
And thank you,
listening.
Claire. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm at Clare. I'm Debbie McKean, by the way. I'm head of marketing and alumni and career services here at West. I met Claire in September, and we instantly felt like our two brands were so aligned with each other. And really what it came down to, we can talk about money, finding less, cheaper versions, but it comes down to value and what's important to you. West used a research company in September to do some research with women to ask what's important to them and seeking out education, career opportunities, or whatever. And hands down, over 70% said when they're looking for an education, price is more important to me than the reputation of the school, which is a huge change. We started then looking at other research articles about how people are looking for education these days. We noticed what a change that was in people understanding what value you get for your education and that how you can get that at any level. And so it's really interesting as Claire and West were working together. We love the fact accounting is one of our biggest programs, and it's been great to have someone who has also come from the accounting background, but also then was able to fund her dream of one day being a writer. So in speaking of that, we have two things we wanted to talk about now. I want to thank you all for coming here. Claire is going to be doing a book signing, and she is offering her book at a 25% discount for us because we're all value. So that's here. But in addition to that, Claire came up with a little challenge for us. And in the back of the room, we have 2 different versions of water, and we have 2 different cheese and cracker trays. One of them is from a really expensive store here. One of them is from a value brand store here. So I urge you all to take a glass of each water, and whichever you think is more expensive, put the ticket in the bowl. Then have a little cheese and cracker from both plates. And obviously the cheese and crackers are on the same platter. And then put a little ticket in, tell us which you think is more expensive. We have your emails and we'll let you know the results. So enjoy, and Claire will be here signing books. Thanks for coming.